So over the summer, I had a simple plea for USC defensively. Give these recruits something to believe in. And through the early portions of this season, they have done just that. Today, we need to talk about USC picking up a massive win on the recruiting trail as Ty Jackson, one of the top prospects in all of high school football, and depending on where you look, the number one linebacker in the nation, commits to the Trojans. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about the defensive overhaul, and we aim to hit it all. Before we can, though, as always, I have to hear from you. Two questions today. First and foremost, are you excited with what you've seen defensively from the Trojans? And secondly, let me know how you're feeling about Ty Jackson adding into this class. Give me a Y if you're excited, N for no. Can't wait to hear from you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small, they are massive. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And I want to start with how I started off the intro. The simple plea I had for USC defensively this offseason. Because USC fans may think I've been hard on the Trojans. However, I hope that now that you've seen this new staff at work, you understand that while it may have seemed like I was being hard on the Trojans, in my view, I was being fair. Because I always knew USC was going to attract offensive talent. How couldn't you? Lincoln Riley's one of the best offensive minds in the nation. He is going to score. But defensively, there was a lot left to be desired. And I kept saying, you are not going to get where you want to be, a playoff game or winning a playoff game, until you shore up that defense. I'm not saying you have to have the best defense in college football, but you cannot forego one side of the football in favor of the other and expect to win a national championship in 2024. Teams are too complete. That was always my problem with the past landscape of USC's coaching staff. It just seemed like they were an offensive team and defense was an afterthought. Thus far, this year, though it's early, this defensive staff has done an incredible job. And let's be very clear here. Even though I had that plea this offseason, I gave that plea because I knew that USC had done a great job at making these hires. You're talking about Doug Belk in the secondary, Coach Henney up front, Lynn, Ince. They assembled a really solid defensive staff. And already through the early portions of this year, you're seeing what they're doing with these players that they had a lot of these guys last year. And it looks totally different. The physicality looks totally different. And I don't know where USC's defense is going to end up. It's too early for me to be able to tell. But I can absolutely tell you it's an improved unit. And that's exactly what I meant. Because whenever I made that video this summer, I made it a point to say, hey, I'm not telling you to be a top 10 defense. If you are, that's phenomenal. Nobody would argue with that. I'm just saying, give these defensive recruits something to believe in, and they will stick with your class. Fast forward to now, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you're a defensive recruit, you want to see a larger sample size of it, which is completely fair. But through the early portions of this season, the defense is playing with a physicality that you did not see in years prior. And I'm very excited to see how this defense continues to progress as the year goes on, because once again, the hires were phenomenal. Love to see them, which leads us to where we need to talk about today. Ty Jackson. Depending on where you look, the number one linebacker in the nation. On3 has him as a top 30 player in the nation, the number one linebacker. The 24/7 Sports Composite has him as the number 95 player in the nation and the number 13 linebacker and a top 15 player in the state of Florida. Now, personally, I can tell you where I view him. I think he's one of the best defensive prospects in this class. I think he's one of the best linebackers in this class. Alabama was after him. Alabama has got a phenomenal linebacking class, but they really wanted him, and that tells you something. For them to have so many linebackers they're excited about, they point at Ty Jackson and say, we want you in the fold. That tells you something. But let's not diminish the linebacking class USC has assembled. Whenever we look at this, with the addition of Ty Jackson, you have a really good class. You have Jordan Perlott from Georgia, Matai Tagoai, who I have talked about in the past as being one of my favorite prospects in this class, regardless of position. I have so much fun watching his tape. I think he is going to be an extremely exciting player, especially working with Lynn to see where they use him, how they use him, Just a phenomenal prospect, and one I know USC fans need to be excited about. But then you add in Ty Jackson to those other two very talented guys, and USC fans need to be over the moon. I think there's a lot of reasons for this. One, you have given recruits something to believe in. USC is always one of those brands in college football that's going to spark intrigue. That's your way into the door. Then you have to give them a selling point, something to believe in. Well, when you look between Matt Entz, that's a solid pitch right there. Then you look at how they're playing, and if they continue showing, hey, we're a defense that's moving in the right direction, but now we need you, that can be an incredibly powerful pitch. Because yes, there are defenses that this season are already here. They're ready. They're an established thing, and USC is still building. But telling a recruit, hey, you see what we're building. You see the immediate turnaround. You see how this is heading in a positive direction. You are the guy that's going to take us to the next level. That's a very powerful pitch as well. An incredibly powerful pitch. And one I fully expect USC to utilize. So where they end up defensively, I can't wait to see. But at the end of the day, through the early portions of this year, you've already given kids something to believe in that they didn't have last year or the year before, or quite frankly, in the entirety of Riley's OU tenure. Because the defense kept regressing. And it did not look like it was improving under the previous staff. Defensive staff, that is, at USC. You hire these guys, phenomenal hires, and already the physicality, exponentially higher than it was a year ago. No question. All I needed to see, and I want to keep seeing it because let's all be fair here, it's an early sample size. It's a very early sample size. But I'm real high on that LSU offensive line. I think that's an LSU offensive line that will be up for a Joe Moore Award. And I saw on several occasions USC defenders playing them at a level of physicality I haven't seen in a long time from the Trojans. Putting some of those guys square on their butt. That's what I'm talking about. Because I really do value that LSU offensive line. And some of you may disagree with how good that LSU offensive line is, but until I see consistent sample sizes of them not being very good, that's a win for USC. Because I do believe that LSU offensive line is really, really good. I do believe they're going to be on a short list of teams up for that Joe Moore Award, and USC's defensive front took it to them. Absolutely took it to them in their physicality. And it's still in the learning phases for this USC defense. They're still understanding what this coaching staff wants of them. They're going to continue improving. And I can't wait to see it. But this is a massive win. What does it mean for USC's class? Well, they're number 13 in the nation. And what are you getting with Ty Jackson? You're getting an old school type linebacker with new school athleticism. I think that's the best way to put it. This is a guy that comes to every play with violent intent. I really wanted him a part of Alabama's defensive class. I think he's that good. I think 24/7 Sports, even having him as a top 100 player in the nation, I think he's better than that. I would lean more towards the on-3 rating. I think he's that good. To be fair, I think this is a phenomenal linebacking class, so I think that there are a few guys we can have conversations about, but at the end of the day, I don't know how you would have him outside the top 50, top 45 players in the nation, which is why I say if you had to make me choose, I would lean far closer to where On3 has him than to where 247 Sports has him. Now, in fairness to 247 Sports, that's the composite, which takes into consideration all of the recruiting services, so it's not on them solely. It's a product of recruiting services as a whole, but I would still lean closer to On3. He is a violent player at the point of attack. He comes with violent intent to make his intentions known, and I truly do think the best way to describe him is an old school linebacker with new school athleticism. I think this is a massive win for USC. This is really a guy you put in the middle of your defense and you say, go hunt. And he is more than happy to do so. I love what I've seen from USC so far. And it's early in the season. They go to the Big Ten. But that was the one thing I was worried about. Is if you didn't fix your defense, The Big Ten had a style of play that could suffocate a brilliant offensive mind like Lincoln Riley. Play keep away. How do you answer that? Have a defense that doesn't allow a team to play keep away. And though USC's defense is still learning, one thing I think we can all agree on is that they're improved. And I can't wait to see how it continues building. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about this. That's it. See ya.